Welcome into a brand new edition of the ESPN Communications Podcast, and I am thrilled to welcome Marty Smith, ESPN reporter and host, to the podcast. Marty, first off, congratulations, fresh off a new deal with ESPN. You are heading into your 20th year with ESPN. When you hear
Crazy.
that, what's your first reaction?
I look in the mirror and see a lot of gray hair, my friend. I just react with gratitude. It's the only way to react, in my opinion. The opportunity to be a storyteller and have the blessing to sit across from some of the most accomplished, acclaimed, revered athletes, coaches in the world, and their willingness to share their truth with me and trust me to be a good steward of that truth on so many of our platforms is just a blessing beyond description and comprehension for me in a lot of ways. So I'm just so thankful to Jimmy Pitaro and Burke Magnus and Mike McQuaid and everybody in the executive staff who believes in me. And that is such a powerful emotion in this life, that someone else believes enough in you to give you an opportunity and put you in a position to be able to contribute to whatever ESPN platform that is. Just 20 years is a long time, man. It's a long time to be anywhere, but to be at ESPN for that long, I just shake my head and bow my head in gratitude.
What's your first memory of ESPN when you
I know it.
began working here?
It's a funny story. So September of 2006, I come on board, and we were beginning the reestablishment of ESPN NASCAR in 2007. And ESPN brought me to Miami, Florida, Homestead, Florida, for the season finale that year. They were doing Sports Center hits and coverage to promote and introduce everybody to the fact that we were coming back into the game. And I go down there, and it was funny because I'd been in the NASCAR garage for, 98, about 7 years or so, I guess. And I was a print writer. I was a reporter and columnist for various publications throughout that 7 years. And I was always a guy in jeans and a T-shirt. And so I show up in a suit. And it was a suit that didn't fit especially well. And so I walk into the garage, and I pass Dale Earnhardt Jr., and he has his entourage with him. This is the height of Dale Jr. I mean, we're talking 2006. He's one of the biggest rock stars on earth. He's in Beyonce, Jay-Z videos, and, on the cover of Rolling Stone and Playboy and all kinds of stuff, right? Big time. But we'd known each other for a long time at that point. And I pass him in the garage, and he just looked at me with this flummoxed facial expression like, what the hell are you? What are you in a suit for? And then I walk into the television compound, and for any of you watching that may not know what that is, that's kind of our epicenter at the events we cover for all of our production trucks and satellite trucks back in the day and all that. That's where they park them. And it's where we do all our meetings. And so I walked into this trailer, and Jack Obringer, who is still at ESPN, Jack brought me into this trailer, and he's walking through my day. And he goes, all right, here's the deal. After the race, your entire life is Dale Earnhardt Jr. We want you to interview Dale. Maybe you'll do a live to tape. Maybe you'll just get some sound, and you'll wrap that sound on Sports Center tonight after the race. And as he's talking, I imagine my eyes were completely glossed over. And he gets done sharing with me my assignment, and he asks me a question. Any questions? I said, what does rap sound mean? And Mike McQuaid, who is now our boss's 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 boss, was seated in a little adjacent office to my right, and the door was open, and his back to us, he was working on a laptop. And when my question was posed, what does rap sound mean? All McQuaid did was this. And so I'll never forget that moment. He was like, oh, my God, we hired this hillbilly from Appalachia. What have we done? I'd never done TV before, Alex.
Wow.
Like, I didn't know any of the language. I didn't know anything about anything. And so, long story short, to think about the journey over a couple decades of going from that moment in Homestead, Florida, to now, all these years later, all those people that believed, all those people that gave me opportunity, saw something in the passion that I try to carry every day. Again, it's just inconceivable. And so incredibly thankful for everybody and for these opportunities.
Marty, walk me through when you say you never did TV before doing that. Like, how did you overcome that? Like, were you nervous at that point in time, or were you like, how did you get through that?
You can't imagine the nerves. You can't imagine the imposter syndrome. You can't imagine the transition, because in that time at ESPN, this was not abnormal. They were taking print journalists like Adam Schefter, like Josina Anderson at the time, like Michael Smith, like all of these print people that obviously were well connected in the sports they covered or the teams they covered, and turning them into television people. I think that happened to Ed Werder. I think it happened to Sal Powell. And so I came into that. The only TV that I had ever done at that time was I would kind of sometimes be in an analytical role where I got asked questions about this race or that driver. I had done a little bit of TV on Speed Channel where they had Shannon Spake and myself try to host a show, and that was a disaster. We loved it, and we're both still proud of it. But nonetheless, I'd never done real TV before. And so where a producer's talking in your ear, and while they're talking in your ear, you have to process what they're saying and still be able to make sure that you're coherent and succinct in what you're reporting. And so I didn't know any of that. And I had to learn that on the fly. And I remember like the microphone shaking in my hand. And so I believe life in so many instances, life is context and repetition. And they were so patient with me. And I give Jack a lot of credit. Jack deserves a lot of credit here, because when he first called me about the opportunity, I told him, I don't know anything about TV. And he said, don't worry about that. We need what and who you know in the NASCAR garage. We'll teach you television. And I went to ESPN University, man. And they taught me TV on the fly, and I made a lot of mistakes and was scared to death for a couple years. But again, as you grow through those repetitions, it starts to become muscle memory. You also learn how to prepare. I didn't know how to prepare for television. No idea. Because it's a very different job than being a print reporter is. And again, I don't think about this very often, so it's wild to kind of relive all those emotions.
I think you've definitely earned your master's or maybe doctorate at ESPN University. Let's set that record straight right now. After 20 years here, you've done a phenomenal job. And like I told you before we started, big fan of your work as
Thank you, Alex.
College football and all the things that you do. But let's hit on what you'll be doing next week in Augusta. Walk me through, Marty, what makes Augusta and the Masters special for you as a reporter for that storytelling aspect of your role?
There are few platforms that offer the reverence, I think is the right word. I love the tone of the event. I love the understanding that if you are someone who is gifted the opportunity to be a conduit of the information that comes from that golf tournament, it's a responsibility and it's a privilege. And I don't take either one of those lightly. Neither do any of the other wonderful colleagues you and I have who are there hosting, reporting, broadcasting that golf tournament. And I love that place so much because the reverence for the grounds and the appreciation for the history permeates the people. It's the only place I can think of anymore in this entire life where you go and you are genuinely consuming history with the people that you are there beside, You are watching this through the film strip of your soul, and you are logging it into the hard drive of your soul and your mind through what your eyes are seeing, not through an iPhone screen. Because anymore, all of us, if we're in a moment like that, we pull out our phone. And you don't do that at Augusta National. You can't do that at Augusta National. If you're walking down the fairway and you see a pimento cheese wrapper on the ground, you pick it up and you throw it in the trash. You don't pass by it because there's just this understanding that that's how you operate. There's the beautiful, cordial energy of you put your chair down at the 12th tee box at Amen Corner and you leave and walk around and enjoy, and somebody else is more than welcome to take your chair. You leave it there, but it's for the assemblage. It's for the gathering of the patrons. And I could go on for days with the superlatives that I feel, but it's just the most beautiful energy, man. I am so grateful to do it, and I really look forward to getting back every year. And certainly this year, Chris Duzan, tremendous producer who is nominated for an Emmy right now for the great work he did on the Lee Corso piece. He and I went to Ireland. We went to Northern Ireland, to Rory McIlroy's hometown, Hollywood, and spent several days. And that will be the Sports Center feature, the SC feature this Sunday on Easter Sunday, and will air throughout the tournament as well. And to, again, like that is the power of our network, that we see great storytelling opportunities and we go do it. And just so fulfilling. That's the most fulfilling part of all of this for me, is being able to tell those stories on College Game Day, at the Masters, PGA, Kentucky Derby, whatever it is.
I definitely want to get into that SC feature that you did on Rory in a second, but can you describe to me the first time you saw the grounds in Augusta?
Every expectation that you have from watching it your entire life, it not only meets but exceeds the loftiest expectation you could fathom. It exceeds it. You can't imagine how hilly it is. You can't imagine the physical toll and the physical challenge that it is for the players and the caddies until you walk it. I remember running, this is a bit of an aside, but I ran the Boston Marathon in 2014, the year after the bombing. And I remember being about 5 miles in and this phrase hit me: the road looks different to the man who walked it. Because if you're in a car or a vehicle driving on a road, it may be the slightest incline and you don't even notice it. But when you're walking it or you're running it, it is such a different experience. Every fissure in the asphalt, every pothole, all of that may be completely anonymous or invisible in a car is an obstacle on your feet. Same thing applies to Augusta National, because it is extremely hilly. And man, you feel the spirits. That's the beautiful piece of it to me. I mean, you're walking with the ghosts. And sometimes you'll be walking between the first and ninth fairways in that row of pine trees that separates them, and that the sun's making its way toward the western sky, and that breeze comes through those pines, and you shiver because that's Bobby Jones.
Wow. No, it's incredible storytelling by your part. Back on the SC feature, if someone asked you today, who Rory is, what would you say to them?
The most thoughtful, considerate interview subject in sports. He is somebody that considers deeply what is asked of him. He'll sometimes pause, and he always, always, always offers an answer of depth and insight. And that is exactly who he is. A really kind person. And that was not only crystallized for me. I mean, I interviewed him every year since 2016. Every single year going into Augusta. This year, no different. Well, it was different because he's the champion now. But just a really normal, thoughtful guy. And very considerate with his time. Oftentimes, he doesn't have.
How do you balance it all between the NFL draft and then Augusta and then college football? But then also, don't forget, you do host a weekend show with Ryan McGee, Marty and McGee. So how do you balance it all for you on a yearly basis?
I think the most important variable in terms of balance is my wife. Lainey and I have been married on May 20th. It'll be our 26th wedding anniversary. She still looks 28, so it's kind of crazy. But nonetheless, in this job, again, to quote Ernie Johnson, it's a get-to job, not a got-to job. To be an ESPN personality is rare. It's rare, and we all know that. And we all try very hard. I certainly do. Every time I walk into an event, I just take a moment. I take a moment and stop, and I stand there and I process the privilege of being there. Because I think that if you lose that fan piece of you, there's a passion that comes with that I think is palpable for the viewership. We have to do our job, but we get to be there. And I love that. And so in order for us to be there, you have to have a very selfless family at home. And you have to have a family and certainly a spouse that is all in. Because we live a very selfish, egotistical life. And it's a life that is spontaneous in my case and in a lot of on-air people's case, that a news story may break that you have to go get on a plane. You got to go somewhere. And that is hard on because it can upend your calendar. It can upend the expectation of what a day might hold for your family. And my wife, Lainey, has sacrificed in what more ways than can be possibly counted. And I'm so grateful to her for that. And she's the best sounding board. It is always very honest, with also understanding me as a person and my goals and my desires. So that is a incredible blessing to have her in every way in my life.
You mentioned getting on a plane and the crazy schedule, and the first thing that jumped to mind when he said that was Lane Kiffin and that story that transpired there. Before we get to the Fast Five round, can you give some perspective on looking back at it now? It seems like a year ago, but it really wasn't. What that time was like for you?
I will tell you, I think it's probably... I've covered some unique things, but I would say just off the top of my head, the only story I can think of in immediacy that had that kind of energy was when Scotty Scheffler got arrested at Valhalla, which was also a very weird day. But I traveled on Thanksgiving. I went down to Birmingham. Anybody that's seen the Pat McAfee interview kind of understands they had no rental cars. I got the loaf of bread to drive and the whole thing. We do the Egg Bowl, and I get over to Oxford from Starkville. And Lane calls me, and he's like, "What are you doing in Oxford?" And I had texted Lane a voice text when I received this assignment. I think it was the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. "Hey, man, I'm going to be up your butt like toilet paper. I'm on Lane Kiffin duty here. So be ready. I'll be wearing you out, man." And so we were there for a long time, waiting on this to be resolved. I think every one of us, all of the correspondence, all the sourcing, all the texts, all the calls, the back and forth, we knew he was going to LSU, but we also knew that it was being held up because he wanted to coach the Ole Miss Rebels in the college football playoff. And so we start reporting that. And we still didn't have resolution. We got all the way through that Saturday. All the memes started coming out on the internet. AI is an amazing thing. By the way, I made one of those of me looking like the Father Time. It's, those stickers on your iPhone that you can send. I made one of those a sticker.
How often do you use that?
Often. And when we got to the point where we'd made it all the way through Saturday, and a great, well-placed source had told me there was going to be a team meeting on Sunday morning at 9 Central Time, and he would announce his resolution after that team meeting. My crew and I get to the parking lot of the Manning Center at 6 o'clock in the morning. I pull up, I park. We're the only people in the parking lot, and a squad car pulls up beside me, rolls a window down. It was an Ole Miss policeman. And he goes, "Hey, Marty, I'm Bubba." Honest to God, his name was Bubba. He goes, "They moved that meeting to 1. And I went, "What?" So we start reporting. They moved the meeting back to 1 o'clock. And then as soon as that meeting happened, the players come rushing out pretty quickly. And one of them screams, "It's the Pete Golding era." And we knew right then it was very real. Okay. I immediately again start texting Kiffin. "I got to get you on camera, man. Where are we meeting? We'll get an Airbnb. We can use we can use the Graduate. I'll come to you wherever you want to do this. We're on the way." And I didn't hear from him for a while. So we start tracking airplanes. We realize there's airplanes going to Tupelo that ultimately are diverted to Oxford. And so we go to Oxford Airport, and ultimately I'm on the phone with him driving way too fast down this highway, bust a left at the fire station. There's all these fire trucks blocking the entrance, and I bomb it off in a field. I'm, driving around snow plows and bush hogs and who knows what else. Crews flying around in the back. And we get up towards the runway, the security gate, and Kiffin's laughing, and he's like, "You really are Scooby-Doo, bro." And we do that interview, and the rest is kind of history. But I give my crew a lot of credit there. Luis Gonzalez, my producer, everybody involved in that, because we were nimble. And you want to know a funny story that I don't know if I've ever told?
Yes, let's hear it.
After the interview, all of us had this crazy adrenaline rush. And we're laughing all the way we watch him leave to go to the airplane. And we're driving back out towards that highway to go to take the crew back to their car to leave. We get back to the main entrance of the Oxford Airport, and we didn't know this. The camera crew it was a freezing cold day that day. Camera crew had accidentally left their van on. Keys in it, car running. And we laughed our asses off because it was that frantic. When he called me and said, "You need to meet me here," and we all jump in my van, and I'm on the phone with him trying to get to him, they forgot. Car was left running. So we get back and their car's running. But yeah, it was a wild experience, man. Again, I got to go back to Mike McQuaid. I got to go back to Mike, because it was Mike's decision to, along with Pete Waters and his group, to commission us down there to kind of embed ourselves in this story. And it wound up being something I'll carry with me forever.
Wow. What a story. I mean,
Yeah, crazy.
just incredible. Incredible. Like you said, you'll never forget that. And that's just a small part of your 20 years here, by the way. But
Indeed.
Marty, this is my favorite part of any interview I do is the fuse.
All right.
That's five. It's five questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The moment you realized this is what I was meant to do.
The moment I realized this is what I was meant to do, I would go back to, that's a hard one, man. Because I've just been really fortunate to tell a lot of stories
Yeah.
at the company. I guess it was, several things pop out from my NASCAR days. I think probably there was a moment where I was still kind of what's called an insider, and we were doing NASCAR, and this was probably around 2008. Like the second or third year I was at the company, I was still very green, but the NASCAR group had started to allow me to do sit-down interviews, taped, very well-produced sit-down interviews, and I was on the road doing one of those with a driver named Casey Kane. And a driver named Kyle Busch was in a lot of trouble. He was driving the M&M's car at the time for Joe Gibbs. He'd gotten in trouble, and it was a really big story in the sport, throughout sports really. And ultimately, I was charged by then Motorsports head Rich Feinberg to get Kyle Busch to sit across from me and do a very direct, very intense, very confrontational type of interview at the Brickyard 400 in Indianapolis. And that was because Kate Jackson, who was at ESPN forever, she now, I think, runs Netflix Sports. Kate believed enough in me to tell Feinberg, this is the guy. This is who needs to be doing this interview, because initially they wanted somebody else to do it. And I'm sitting across from Kyle at the Brickyard, very, very direct questioning, not backing down. And he was so good in that interview, I guess that would be the moment. And there are so many moments throughout this journey that I could point to. Me sitting across from Tiger Woods, dude. Like, first time I sat across from Tiger in 2018, and he was so vulnerable. Going to China, Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't know, man. This job, it's just, you got to, you have to take a moment to just be overwhelmed with gratitude that you get to do this. It's never lost on me, because I think the second you lose that, complacency can set in. It's like, I carry this quote on my person all the time from Saban, and this encapsulates to me everything that is this job and the blessing that it is. Listen to this quote. When you're climbing a mountain, you look up. You never look back. Complacency is something that everyone who has any level of success must challenge themselves to overcome. But it's not just the willingness to do it, it's the why you're willing to do it, because the why creates the passion for the what, and the passion creates the ability to sustain it. I carry it on my person every day. Saban's the GOAT, bro.
I totally agree with that. Number two, favorite tradition at the Masters?
No cell phones. To my point earlier, no cell phones. But it's very special to me, man. I have my own tradition. On Sunday afternoon, once CBS takes over the broadcast, and I'm somewhat clear until the end of the tournament, and I'm preparing to do that final interview with the winner. I'll go down to Amen Corner. I'll go to the concession stand. I'll buy 2 beers, one for me and one for my daddy, who I lost in 2008. And I'll sit there at Amen Corner, and I'll be quiet, and I'll drink a beer for me, and I'll drink a beer for my daddy. And because it's one of those places that you can't help but be spiritually moved. You are so spiritually moved. And again, it all goes back to that grounding of the only people you can talk to are the people that are there living the same energy and the same shared experience that you're living. And that is so rare today, man.
What a phenomenal tradition and just awesome. Number three, one thing people don't see about your friendship with Ryan McGee.
Marty and McGee After Dark. We have a whole other show that is not befitting the Disney company's airwaves. But yeah, going back to blessings, I know I'm a broken record here, but to have been on air the way we have as two country boys who the crux and the fulcrum of the show is our friendship. And all of the incredible events that he's at. He's going to the Final Four tomorrow, I think. All of the college football we get to do. Like, we just get to tell these stories on this platform that gives us the breadth and the air that we can't put on Sports Center, or we can't put on Game Day, or we can't even put on our fall Marty and McGee show because it's 1 hour and it's very structured. We're flying by the seat of our pants, man. We don't prepare. That's the big secret. We show up, turn the lights on, and we might end up talking about baseball cards for an hour. We might end up talking about me working on a farm for an hour. We might talk about his dad as a former university president. We might talk about mullets. We spent an hour last Saturday talking about toilets. At commodes, as we call them. So the fact that we get to do that, and the viewer and listenership gravitates to it the way they do is awesome. Now, all that said, when there's no lights and there's no microphones, Marty and McGee After Dark, it involves cold beer and hilarity.
That's awesome. I also big fan of Marty and McGee. What's been your favorite segment? If you could list one favorite segment from that show, what would you say?
Well, I think that the viewership would say Hillbilly Headlines because that's now an institution.
Yes.
But there have been many segments, I think, that were flashpoint moments for the show, one of which was when NASCAR outlawed the Confederate flag. Because on a show where we are silly, sometimes we take a moment to be very focused on gratitude and important storytelling. That was a moment. We were on the 3 to 5 p.m. Saturday afternoon, radio only, when that happened. We weren't on TV yet. And I think that our analysis of that and the inclusivity that came from that decision was surprising to some listeners because of how we sound and where we grew up. And when 70, I want to say this, I'm not sure of his exact age, but on that show, an African-American gentleman called in from California in tears and openly stated, this was not the show I thought I was going to get today driving down the highway. But thank you guys for your kindness and your son. And that was a unique moment for us because we had shared those opinions that we had, and we were like-minded in that opinion. So that was a big moment for the show and a segment that stands out. I guess I'll leave it there, but there are many. There are many, but that one was unique.
Yeah, no. And then the last one, Marty, one word to describe what ESPN means to you after 20 years.
Gratitude. And there's a lot of layers to that, Alex. The first layer, as a young man and as somebody that had an insatiable desire and work ethic as an athlete, ESPN was my daily barometer. And then to go to a small university in Radford University to study print journalism and to have had the opportunity to write for major publications as a student. Never, ever, ever, ever dreamed. It's beyond my wildest dreams to ever work at ESPN in the first place, on television. At all, but certainly on television. To sound like this, for many, many people, having a Southern accent is a detriment to their broadcast journalism career. ESPN's never asked me to change one time. I came in covering NASCAR. There was some authenticity to that. And ESPN never once said, you need to go lose that accent. And I go to universities every Saturday in the fall, and we speak to journalism classes, and invariably there are students that come up to me and say, my professor's telling me I got to lose my accent. And I say, look at that guy. And so that's cool. And then, to me, what might be the biggest is I was a sports-centric reporter, not host. I was a sports-centric reporter in NASCAR racing. And our bosses saw something that made them go, we're losing NASCAR. We're going to put that guy in college football. That doesn't happen, Alex. Imagine waking up one day and seeing Shefty at the NHL or something, right? And the college football playoff that year, this is 2014, this was the inaugural playoff. That was one of, if not the biggest initiative in the company that year. And they dropped me in Columbus, Ohio like an alien from Mars. And that team won the national championship that year, and I was with them that whole run. And my word, just thank you. Thank you for seeing that. Lee Fitting at the time was the EVP, executive producer of College Game Day, and then McQuaid, all of them. So much gratitude, because this is an imperative statement. Television is a team sport. Those of us that you see on TV have armies of people behind us that are putting us in a position to have this opportunity. And that's our production staff, that's our graphics staff, that's our research staff, that's our public relations staff, that's everybody. And everybody is elite. So thank you. I'm grateful for all of it.
Well, thank you for your time. I know this is a crazy time of year for you. I can't wait to see your coverage in Augusta next week. Marty, congratulations again on your new deal, and I can't wait to watch all your incredible work over the next few months.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.